Hi everyone, my name is Yvonne Kagondu and welcome to Blockwisely. And today we'll be discussing crypto regulation in Kenya in relation to the VASP bill and everything related to KRA, CMA, and all those terms you've heard of. If you've attended any crypto event recently, the conversation is the bill, regulation, and all that's happening. And today we're going to deep dive into that. And I'm very excited to have Chebet here with me, who has been engaging with that side. So I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Hi, everyone. My name is Chebet Kipingor. I'm the Regional Ambassador Africa for the Association of Women in Cryptocurrency. I also serve as the Business Operations Manager for Busha, which is Nigeria's first SEC licensed exchange in the world's second largest crypto market, which is Nigeria. And we're also live in Kenya and expanding to Ghana. So I'm really excited to be here. And thanks, Yvonne, for this opportunity.
Thank you. So, regarding VASP, there's been a lot of news about regulation of crypto in Kenya. And for the longest time, the headlines were good. We have an association, we have this, we have that. And very recently, what caught my eye was there was a shift in tone. And the reason I invited Chebet here was because there's an article that I saw on Cointelegraph saying Kenya's crypto tax could hinder Africa's digital growth opportunity, which you are the author. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So first, if you're like me, who's very ignorant, I want us to start with a definition of terms, because you'll hear VASP. What is VASP? When we have this conversation, you'll hear CBK, CMA, KRA, whatever. So I'd like us to, if you could, as an expert in the field, please, if you could start with a definition for our audience. What is CBK? What is CMA? What is KRA? What is VASP? What is, and everything else that you feel relevant, and how they relate with this conversation of crypto regulation in Kenya.
Okay, thanks for that. And that's a very insightful question. And I'm actually very, very happy to be here, because I've been one of those people in the community who's been pushing for wider understanding of what is happening, because these regulations, or rather I'll use the term, these laws, will affect all of us, whether you're a builder, whether you're a trader, whether you're a consumer. It's going to affect everyone. So it's important for us to take the time to read this bills and regulations, not just read, but understand to each and every one of our individual capacities how these laws are going to affect us and how we can best prepare. So I'm really, really happy with the work that's now starting to go into the community in terms of education and advocacy. It's very, very important, because we like to say that the regulators or the people developing the laws don't understand us, but also at the same time, we as a people in this space, a lot of us do not understand how laws work. So there's that capacity building that needs to happen. So in terms of definitions, yes, I would agree. Web3, we're not new to jargon. we love our hard terms, ZK proofs and all that stuff. The funny thing is, as much as we have our own jargons and languages that make sense to us, when it comes to this regulation things, a lot of people in the space are floating, for lack of a better term.
True.
Yeah, so let's start with the one in the room, VASP. What or who is a VASP? So VASP stands for Virtual Asset Service Provider. So in Kenya, we refer to companies or people involved in crypto exchanges or digital assets as virtual asset service providers. So this can be anyone from an exchange, anyone doing and selling and trading NFTs, anybody who's working with tokens. If you're building tokens like fries, you could be seen as a VASP, stuff like that. So that is a VASP. If you're indulging or working around virtual assets, which in this case is digital assets or crypto, you are considered as a VASP. And the purpose of this bill, the VASP Bill 2025, is to regulate VASPs, because I think all of us for the longest, Kenya has been like the wild, wild west. We've not had laws or rules or anything. We are properly decentralized in that way or form. And a lot of people have thrived in the lack of rules. But a lot of people have also gotten hurt. And when I say hurt, they've lost money to scams and things. And because there's no laws or regulations, when people lose money, there's nowhere they can go and say, I want my money back. Or how do I get? There's no way to follow these companies because there's no laws or rules protecting the consumers and also enforcing the companies to behave in a certain criteria. And it's important for us to have regulation because what regulation does, it separates the bad actors from the good actors. And I'll use bad actors because people in Web3 identify with bad actors and good actors. Everyone knows what a bad actor or who a bad actor is. But in the sense that right now, even us ourselves in this space, we might know who bad actors are, but how do we protect ourselves on the wider space? How do we promote adoption of crypto and Web3 products and services without rules that will help us grow and expand more? So I know a lot of people in this space might not be pro-regulation, or they might be afraid of regulation because they feel that regulation is going to stop the reggae that is decentralization and all the enjoyment people have been having in this space. But I beg to differ. If you look at all the other markets, across the world, let's even go beyond Africa. Look at Singapore, look at the UAE, look at America. All the progress that these markets have been able to achieve has gone hand in hand with regulation because they've been able to attract more investment. Think about all the startups and all the builders who are trying to build and they're trying to get or raise funds from VCs. A VC is going to invest in a regulated market way more than they're going to invest in a market that's not regulated. Yeah. So I think it's important for people to stop focusing on the problems and fears and look at the opportunities and the positives. Yeah, so I hope the definition of VASP is clear.
It's clear. But then there's other terms, and they seem so simple. For example, CBK, which is the Central Bank of Kenya. When I was younger, I used to think CBK is a bank, like KCB, like Equity, until I went to school and learned that CBK is the big bank. Because I never heard anyone saying I bank with CBK. I thought it was a very bad bank that no one associates with. Until I learned that CBK is a sort of governing body for the bank. Because we have crypto traders who are as young as teenagers who are going to hopefully watch us. And there are things like CMA who are very involved. There's KRA. These are the firms that I've seen trying to sort of come in. I didn't really introduce myself, but I'm the founder of ICP Hub Kenya. And at one point, KRA came and sent me an email. And they told us, I don't know if I'm allowed, but they told us, do ICP Hub Kenya pay tax? And I think that's the time they were trying to initiate the conversation with participants in the ecosystem. And I think people might really, and when you learn about zero knowledge, ZK, when you learn about ETH, Solana, ICP, all those terms, not many people know about these governing bodies that we have. And you had told me today, I didn't know that you are a lawyer, not a lawyer, but you've studied law.
Yeah.
Maybe you might have a better understanding of these governing bodies.
Yes. Okay. So very, very good follow-up. And just, you'd ask me also to help define the previous, not just VASP, but all these bodies.
Yes.
So,
VARA,
what, all these things. So the thing about countries like Kenya, we have statutory bodies. These are government institutions that are there to help the executive branch of the government to rule and to oversee certain things. And every country in the world has a central bank. In Kenya, we have the Central Bank of Kenya. And the Central Bank of Kenya is in charge of protecting our financial sovereignty as a country. So think of things like printing of the money, the fluctuation of currencies, how banks do things like interest rates for loans and things like that. All of these things are controlled and regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. And that's why central banks always participate very closely when matters coming towards regulation or anything involving payment services in this country. If you look at even M-Pesa, I'll give you the history of M-Pesa just as a use case. Something important when we look at M-Pesa, a lot of people even in this space can argue that M-Pesa is digital money or stuff like that, or even because it operates similarly to crypto. When M-Pesa came into the scene, the Central Bank of Kenya said that they are going to take time to regulate it because their priority first is to understand it, so that when they make laws about surrounding M-Pesa, they're making it from a point of knowledge. And that's very, very important. Right now, we've seen different organizations doing a lot of capacity building with regulators such as the Central Bank of Kenya, because they are very, very interested in how cryptocurrencies and digital assets can impact our local or financial sovereignty, can impact, let's say, how cryptos and the use of cryptos long-term will affect the Kenyan shilling, the stability of the Kenyan shilling. It's the job of the central bank to protect the Kenya shilling and our financial sovereignty. And that's why they're also very concerned in things such as stable coins, because those are, a stable coin is a digital asset or digital currency backed by fiat, usually backed by actual currency. Ideally. At a 1-to-1 ratio. Ideally. So that's where the central banks come in. And in Kenya, the Central Bank of Kenya is the one that licenses M-Pesa. It's the one that licenses all the payment service providers we call PSPs. All the guys who are doing, think of companies like what are these guys? These guys who do payments for websites. You know, like right now, if you go to Jumia and you want to buy something online, and you do your online, and it gives you options for card, M-Pesa, any company is doing stuff like that. Think of Sasa Pay, Tanda Pay. Think of InterSwitch. Think of this big company that starts with a C. I'm forgetting. Pesapal. All these guys are licensed, paid. Babu. All of these guys are regulated, fall under CBK. Think of all the financial lenders. Think of apps like Tala. Think of anybody who's doing anything involving money, whether it's an app, a platform, etc. They are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Then aside from that, we have the Capital Market Authority, or what we call CMA. So CMA is the one that regulates all the markets, commodities. Think of stocks, shares, stuff like that. Those all fall under the purview of CMA. Anything around like investment banking, you want to buy shares in Safaricom, you want to use a certain app or platform to do that. CMA is the person who will be in charge of that. In countries like Nigeria, their version of the CMA, or which is called the Securities and Exchange Commission, they're the ones that regulate crypto exchanges. As our license as Busha, we got it from the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Same as America, they have the Securities and Exchange Commission. When Trump came into power, he was very pro-crypto. He came in on a pro-crypto campaign. One of the campaign promises he had was replacing the people who were previously in the SEC with more pro-crypto people to foster more crypto adoption in America. So like right now in Kenya, the Capital Markets Authority, they have something called a regulatory sandbox. Currently in the CMA, we have 3 companies in the blockchain, the Web3 space, that have been admitted into the CMA sandbox. So a regulatory sandbox is a place where companies, mostly startups, any company can actually sign up and get admitted into. And that's why you show regulators like the CMA or Capital Market Authority, hi, I have this product. We are testing out this new form of technology, this blockchain technology. We want it to help people in this way or form. These are the features. This is how we'll be collecting money. This is how we'll be, everything. It's a learning. Regulatory sandboxes are very important because they teach the regulators like CMA how products work, so that when even they go to develop policies or laws and regulations, they can understand, these are the type of things people in this industry will be building, and this is the support or the rules we need to enforce as the government to protect consumers and to also foster innovation. So it's not that it's something that's scary. It's not something that it's only for big companies. I'd say for startups especially, if you're developing, especially if you're developing or building something completely new that's not existed before in the market, a regulatory sandbox is the best place to test that product. So when the laws come out, they're in line with what you're building and not something, you don't want to be in a position where you've developed something, but there are no laws or there's no rules that understand you and can support you. Yeah. So I think I've answered.
Yes, you've answered CBK, CMA. And then there are these terms you told me. VARA, FATs, VARAC.
Yes.
There are quite many.
Yeah.
If you could assist me and everyone else.
Okay, so right now, as you mentioned, we are in the regulation space. And one of the cool things that's been done or been formed now that we have the VASP Bill 2025 is we are going to have, as our industry, our own regulatory body. So one of the clauses in the new bill is the setup of the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority of Kenya. And the purpose of this Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority is to regulate all VASPs. We mentioned VASP before.
Yes.
Is to regulate all virtual asset service providers. So anyone who falls under the legal definition of a VASP, they will have to apply for a license, and VARAC will be the body in charge of issuing those licenses and saying, you meet the criteria, you get a license, you can operate. If you don't meet the criteria, you can't operate. Or alternatively, if you've been operating without a license, they're the ones now it's the place now we'll go to report the bad actors, the CBEXs, who will be, let's say, if there's going to be a CBEX sort of situation, you can now go to VARAC and report, hey, there's this place, I put my money, it got lost, watu walipotea. Now it's for them to enforce the fines, the things. It's for them to enforce. It's the same way we have the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. I think right now a lot of Kenyans are familiar with the ODPC because right now we've seen. No. Okay, but I think you've been seeing we've been having a lot of cases, data protection, where we see this company used somebody's image to do marketing, social media ads, or to do, or guys did not, how you give information to customers or companies. You go somewhere, you give out your information. A few days later, you start receiving SMSs, you start receiving ads and stuff like this. So we have the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. So if your data is not used in a nice way, you can go and report the person who's misused your data, and the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner can issue a fine, warning, or even more. So that's now us as people in Web3, blockchain, people who are dealing with digital assets. We'll have our own body, and the only purpose of this body is to regulate, license, fine, protect customers, protect as companies as well. So it's a very, very good thing. And the reason why this is a pro versus a con, if you look at the history of even just the regulation process in Kenya and even the first versions of the bill, because the bill, it's work in progress, basically. What's been happening over the past few months and even since last year is we've been slowly fine-tuning different drafts of the bill to get to where we are now. The early versions of the bill, in the early versions of the bill, this CMA and CBK we've spoken about, we'd have to, imagine you're a VASP, imagine you're doing something, you're building a token, you'd have to go to CMA or the Capital Markets Authority, apply for a license, then you go to CBK, apply for another license, then you go to the other regulatory bodies, apply, just to operate. So you can see how hectic, annoying, not practical that process was. And right now, I'd like to really commend the regulators, because they've been really studying what's happening in other markets and other countries, not just in Africa, but across the world. And they saw, like, for instance, in Dubai, with VARA, it's I think, max 3 months process. There you have, if you're interested in getting a license and operating there, you go to VARA, you apply, you go through the processes, and within 3 months, you know whether you'll get your license or not. And you're going through one person. Right now, if you were to use the initial process that was outlined in the previous versions of the bill, it would not be a selling point for Kenya. As you know, as Kenyans, we are very, 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 very proud about our position as financial innovators, not just in Africa, but across the world. We are the birthplace of mobile money. We are the leaders when it comes to mobile money innovation. We've positioned ourselves as the Silicon Savannah. So you cannot say we are the Silicon Savannah, but our processes to regulate digital assets or to make people just get a license are hectic. Yeah, so it's just from an operations perspective, they're trying to make things simpler for companies here and also companies from outside, because there's a lot of interest, foreign interest. There's a lot of big companies that want to come to Kenya, invest in this space. And we're just thinking we've been losing as a country a lot of businesses to markets like Rwanda because of the ease of doing business, the ease of setting up businesses. So he said, we cannot make this process complicated. How do you make it simple? We have one body. It's going to have seats. These seats will have different regulators from across the board, and they will work together to license the industry. And you also learned from other sectors. Yeah.
Okay, then thank you for the definition of terms. And I'm assuming that the audience already knows what is crypto, what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, what is Satoshi Nakamoto, because unless we can't really talk about these things unless they have prior knowledge to that. But then let's go to the history of regulation in Kenya.
Yes.
And I'll just give a small overview of what I found online and what I've been seeing in the space. So it started a while back. It started in, I remember back in the day when crypto was starting, it's mostly because of freelancers. Kenya has a very wide freelancer activity. There was a time we were actually called by, I think there was a documentary about our online writers, how they are writing so well. So it started with them looking for a fair system of receiving money, and that's where they met Bitcoin. And that was before 2015. And that's when the conversation started. And in December 2015, the Central Bank of Kenya issues a cautionary note, I think. That's what it used to be called, stating that banks should not be seen trading or associating with Bitcoin. Yeah. And then, but there was a cry because Kenya, at that time, we were very high in ranking in terms of crypto using. And people were creating the need. I remember Bitange Demo, for those who know him, is I think he was the PC of
PS
of tech, yeah.
Yeah.
So that time the President Uhuru Kenyatta set up a blockchain task force. I remember he was part of the team or heading the team. That was in 2018. And then the next thing we saw from the government was in 2020 when the Capital Markets Authority that you've talked about introduced a regulatory sandbox, which was also one of the recommendations of the task force that was set up by Uhuru. And many projects apply. Right now you've told us that a few of them, you said 4?
3.
3 of them have been approved from 2020. But we had a lot of applications. And then in 2022 is when there was the introduction of the, am I getting the year correct? The turnover tax. That's when it was, is it 2022?
2023.
2023. The turnover tax of 3%. That's when I think a lot of us were shocked because turnover tax means, from what I understood, was that every single thing you do with crypto is taxed. You move it, you convert it, you touch it, 3% goes to the government. And which we saw at that time, it was basically an industry killer. For an industry that's not regulated. From here, 2015, where the government said, the Central Bank of Kenya said that banks should not use it. The Capital Markets Authority had only accepted 3 projects. Now the KRA wants to tax us after all that sort of I don't know what to call it, but it wasn't clear. Yeah, ambiguity,
gray areas.
Exactly, of regulation, and all these are government bodies.
Yes.
I think also it came, there was, you mentioned to me this when we were having a conversation, you talked about the grey, Kenya was grey listed.
Yes.
Was it 2023?
I think so. It's been, I think should be 2023 or 2024.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kenya was grey listed.
What does that mean?
So basically we have an international body. It's called the Financial Action Task Force, and their job is to identify or track illicit flow of funds. Talk about illicit flow of funds. Basically, this is money that's been used to finance terrorism, to do illegal activities. Think of narcos. I know kila mtu amewatch narcos. Yeah, so the money that's been used for drugs and all these funny, weird things. So, and it's true that, yes, there are people who use crypto digital assets in the black market to do a lot of shady things. And bodies like the FATF are the ones who follow those flows, to try and protect everyone in the world from bad actors. So when a country is grey listed, it means that this country, there's a lot of flows. A lot of the money that's coming from this country is suspicious, or it's going to weird things. So Kenya is not the only country that's grey listed. Nigeria, South Africa as well. And it's important to note that the top biggest crypto markets in Africa are all grey listed, which is something concerning. You know, right now we're seeing a lot of money and a lot of things and development moving in Africa, but we want it to be for good and not for bad. And that's why a lot of people in government are really working very hard towards removing Kenya specifically from the grey list. Another thing that happened actually quite recently, before we were only on the FATF grey list, June 10th of this year, we got added to the EU, the European Union grey list as well. So what that means is, instead of improving, it's even the guys in the EU are saying, hey, there's a lot of strange money movement happening in Kenya, and when you're grey listed, it's bad for investments, it's bad for a lot of things. So we need to, basically, these guys are telling us, clean up, mtoke grey list, so we can invest more in your country. So this is a very pressing, actually burning issue for everyone in government and even the region, because of course Kenya is East Africa's biggest economy. We have to lead by example. And the other thing that's concerning with this is all these other countries, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, they're looking at our VASP bill. They're looking at how we are approaching regulations so that they can copy us, because at the end of the day, we are leaders. We're the leaders in this region. And we have already seen, you talked about the turnover tax. When KRA introduced that digital asset tax and it passed into law in 2023 through the finance bill of 2023. So a lot of people don't know this, but every year in Kenya, that's why I think people know about the finance bill more now because of all that has happened with the protests. Every year, for the government to function, we always have to have a finance bill. So the finance bill dictates how money is spent, used, taxation, things like that. So the 2023 version of the finance bill and the Income Tax Act introduced the digital asset tax at 3%. And it was, like you said, an industry killer because it charged 3% on the total value of any transaction. So let's say right now, Yvonne, you've bought, let's say, $10,000 worth of Bitcoin in your wallet. Yeah? You want to, let's say today you've seen, like today Ethereum is really going up. You're like, let me swap this Bitcoin for a bit of Ethereum. You'd be charged not for the transaction fees or the gas fees. You'd be charged for that $10,000 of your Bitcoin. 3% would go to the government. And that's very well because right now even exchanges, companies like Busha, how we earn, we charge between 0.5 to 2% on transaction fees. That means the government would be earning 3%, while us we make 0.5%.
And yours is fees.
Ours is fees. Then it's the whole transaction amount. You understand how well this is. And even just because we all know about bad actors and good actors, and we know that they are centralized exchanges and they're also decentralized exchanges. So right now, these regulations mostly impact centralized platforms. If that tax was implemented at that 3%, why would anyone want to use a centralized regulated exchange when they can easily go to any of these decentralized platforms and trade without being taxed? And knowing the mindset of Web3 community people, that would be a no-brainer. And what would happen is it would force people from using trusted good platforms to using unregulated decentralized platforms where if anything happens, it would be more difficult for customers and consumers to follow up or get protection. Because one of the core functions of this new bill is to protect consumers in case, because we understand how life works. Anything can happen. We want to be in a situation where if anything goes wrong, you can go and say, this company is responsible. Here is the office. I need my money back. What's the plan? So that's the whole thing. And we realize if these taxes were to be enforced, one, it would make crypto also extremely expensive. If we think about the core current users, even in Kenya, the remote workers, the students, the people who are trying to send money to their loved ones abroad because Western Union is too expensive. They are going to make this crypto platform super expensive for them. So where will these people go? So that's what we're addressing even in my Cointelegraph article. And we have secured such a big win. As an industry, all the people involved in this conversation, we've been doing a lot of lobby work. So what happened, I think 2 months ago, we were able to make submissions to Parliament. With this new version of the 2025 finance bill, we created a community-led stakeholder group where we were able to crowdfund and secure the help of PwC, which was incredibly important. The reason we chose to go with PwC is because they have a lot of experience in matters tax.
PwC is an audit firm.
Yes. PwC. PricewaterhouseCoopers. Yes, PwC, the global audit firm. So these guys have a long relationship with government and other industries. They are the same guys who go and discuss they're the same guys who actually represent big companies like Safaricom, Airtel, etc. when they go to do the public participation of the finance bill. They represent all these big associations and industry bodies such as Kenyan Bankers Association. For us, what we saw, it's true. Our industry is very, very young. It's also it's a young industry being led by young people. And a lot of these regulators are old, they're mature, they don't understand our technology, they do not understand our businesses. So we needed people who speak their language. We needed people who are like, this is what we mean. Sisi vijana tujakuja na ubaya, tunataka tu usaidizi na support. And that's what happened. So we went with PwC. I really liked it because even for the people who didn't understand what was happening, we were trying to really break it down. We're like, here are the documents, here are the drafts, here are the bills, here are the proposals. We worked on the presentation together and we went and explained how this 3% DAT was an industry killer. So with the finance bill this year, the president and the regulators, because at the same time you have to understand, these guys do not understand our businesses. So they cut the DAT by 50% to 1.5%. And to them, they saw that they've done a good thing, but also at the same time, as anyone who's been watching the news, government keeps on saying that they don't have enough money and they're trying to raise money. So they felt that cutting the 50% would be good because we'd still have 1.5 and the government can raise money to do what the government needs to do. But they still did not understand that 1.5 of the whole transaction volume, how it would kill us. So after all this lobbying, finally, these guys understood. And they completely deleted the DAT tax as it stands. And instead, right now, the crypto industry, we are now as this finance bill that was passed into law, we now pay a 10% excise duty as well as all the other relevant taxes that any other company in the payment space pays. But that 10% excise duty is on transaction fees. It's on the gas fees and not on the amount of the... And that is a huge win for all of us.
Yes.
Because now a lot of companies that were saying, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but a lot of companies that were reading Kenya were saying, ikitu kipitishwa, we're done, we're not going to operate here because it was not financially feasible. Removing that tax saved a lot of jobs. The people who don't even know their jobs were at risk.
Yeah, my job was at risk. I didn't even know.
Yeah, so that's a huge win. It was a huge win. Really, really commend all the people who are involved with those efforts.
Yeah, me too. I really commend you guys, you included. I just want to give more history before we go on. Well, we've talked about industry people don't really know. I talked about how freelancers were using crypto to accept money because other forms you talked about, Western Union, were a bit discriminatory. PayPal you'd open a PayPal account closed with all your money, all your work. And
no dispute resolution. And also the FX costs. I don't know if people realize how much they lose on FX costs on platforms like PayPal, foreign transaction exchange rates. Like right now, what is the value of a dollar in Kenya? It ranges between 129 to 131. I challenge anyone listening to this podcast right now, open your PayPal account if you have one, and try and transact money. You'll see the dollar is being converted at 125. But if you use a crypto exchange like ours, you will get it because USDT or USDC equals 1.
Yeah.
So if today the value of the dollar is 129 and you got paid for work done somewhere else and somebody wants to pay you in dollars, you want to get your $500, you've done your work, you go on PayPal, you'll be charged 125 per dollar. But if you come to an exchange, you'll be charged 129, 131. So that is just anyone who wants money.
Exactly, yeah. And on top of that, there's a whole industry that came out of it.
Yes.
As someone who's in this space, I call myself a consultant, a founder, but all through I have clients, and that's international clients, companies coming in and local companies coming in looking to establish a market. And you find that opportunities have emerged. For example, you find people are hiring from all around the world locally. As you mentioned, Kenya is one of the top markets in crypto. Then you find startups coming up. People saying, for example, as ICP Hub Kenya, we noticed that we are really consuming a lot of products. We wanted to empower builders. We wanted to train developers and make them founders so that they can also launch their own crypto products. But then I didn't realize that this bill was going to affect them. It was going to sort of, you would even be discouraged. There's really no, in as much as law is good, there's really no industry protection that's in crypto. Crypto is an international market. But you don't really see a lot of industry protection. If you look at things like, let's say, flowers and traditional industry, you'd find that the government has set up policies that protects, you can't just sell flowers in Kenya, yet we have flowers growing in Naivasha. So we don't have industry protection. We don't have anywhere, anyway. And when we look at careers, right now, a lot of Kenyans are talking about unemployment. But if we empower our startups, we can be able to create jobs. We can be able to launch careers, and people don't have to fly out to Middle East, Dubai to get jobs. So when we still talk about the ecosystem and the industry, other than careers being formed, there's also trading activities that took place. I think at the beginning what happened was that we noticed arbitrage opportunities. You find that the freelancers were cashing out at maybe at the early days were cashing out at maybe 10% above market price. So people found out that they can buy at zero and a whole P2P. I think in Africa we are leading in P2P trading, if I'm not wrong, unless that changed. A couple of years back, it was Kenya leading. Yeah. And you find that people are doing peer-to-peer trading full-time. And people realize with time, the arbitrage opportunity goes smaller and smaller. People notice spot trading. People notice
copy trading.
All these things come up, and a lot of unemployed youths in Kenya were finding opportunities. So the DAC, the Digital Asset Tax, was going to kick out all those people, all those empowered Kenyan youth. So this year, when was this VASP bill introduced? Was it this year?
Okay, so just a bit of historical context. So with the grey listing, with Kenya joining the grey list, I think it was early last year. FATF worked closely with IMF, and we know our country relies heavily on support from bodies like the IMF. So one of the IMF did a report. So one of the regulators, I think it was the CMA, they reached out to the IMF and said, this is what's happening. How can you assist us to get off the grey list, and what are your recommendations? And part of the recommendations given for us to come out of the FATF grey list is either we ban crypto outright or regulate it. After that, KRA also now came up with some data, I think mostly backed by Chainalysis, about how much money is being made or moving in Kenya and related to crypto. And the government saw an opportunity. Instead of banning this industry completely, we need money as well. Can we tax these guys, set up regulations? So last year around August, a technical working group was formed by the National Treasury, which is a ministry that deals with all matters finance. And this technical working group put all the regulators who'd be in charge of anything that touches crypto. So think about the Central Bank of Kenya that we talked about, the Capital Markets Authority. Think about the Office of Data Protection, because there's a lot of intersections between data and cryptocurrency. We have the Financial Reporting Center. We also have even the DCI, Directorate of Criminal Investigation, because of all the criminal scamming activities. So basically, think of the technical working group as everybody is familiar with groups za uni, za kufanya group work. Think of it as a super group of all the regulation badasses in the government. So this super group, they were given one job: make a VASP bill or VASP laws that would regulate this industry. And money was put aside. And the technical working group worked for 6 months. End of last year, around December, rough draft of the bill was formed. And now the regulators in the technical working group now started reaching out to stakeholders or people in the industry, whether it's KRA or whatever, everyone who's involved. They're like, okay, we have this draft bill. Since you guys are the ones in the space doing business here, can you go through it and tell us if what we have written and what we have found here and what we have captured here makes sense? So that's now when we started submitting our comments, taking submissions, so that now they could take that feedback. Then January of this year, there was a gazette notice. So every time a bill comes out, there's always a gazette notice. And now everyone in the public was invited to submit their feedback and comments around the bill to Treasury. So we did that in January. Then end of January, we had public participation in Nairobi. We went, we represented, and it was very heartwarming to see. At least tulifika huko tulikuwa na mbogi. We had 3 rows just wasi wa industry, and guys were following. And we asked questions, and we're like, okay, this, and we asked questions for startups. I would like to recognize Wambogo from Web3 Clubs, specifically for speaking up consistently about the position of startups in this space and builders. I think that's something that's very, very important, and maybe we need to work or capture better in this bill, because a lot has gone into protecting bigger companies, but we can do better in making it easier for all the builders and the people who want to do something in the Web3 space, because we have I'd like to think we have, it's not just thousands. If I think about all the universities and the Web3 clubs across Kenya, we have so many builders. All of them are building interesting products. I was privileged to go to JKUAT with Tech Sisters Kenya and Valeria. You know Valeria from TSK? Yeah, and we were speaking to female builders there. Guys are building such interesting things.
I'd like to rope in that we have an ongoing hacker league at ICP Hub Kenya. All you builders are invited. Yeah, go on.
Yes, please. I hope mmeona billboard. Kuna pesa. Niko kazi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to JKUAT, and guys are building interesting things, and we just want to make sure that as much as we worked hard for these laws here to protect big companies, these upcoming builders in Campo who are looking for jobs and who want to be the next wave of our industry, they also need a chance to shine. They also need a chance to just take these ideas from not just being ideas, but into being practical solutions and products, market viable products. And a lot of us think, right now, if you look at the top 10 unicorns in Africa, none are Kenyan. Everybody knows that. We do not have a Kenyan unicorn. For those who don't know, a unicorn is a company that's past the billion mark.
It's a rare. Unicorns are rare. It's a rare company.
It's a rare company.
Yeah, that goes above and beyond. Like when VCs invest, just to explain to the audience, they don't really expect to get their money back. But there's always that one rare company like a Facebook that brings back all the money of all the investments they've done.
Yeah.
And in Kenya, all our top startups are not even Kenyan.
They're not Kenyan?
they're Kenyan by quote, but we know their founders. There's a list that goes around.
As a service.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, exactly. And, recently I was talking to someone and he told me that we always talk about M-Pesa. M-Pesa is like, it's almost 20 years old.
18 years.
18 years old. And it's not even, it's Kenyan, but it wasn't founded in Kenya.
It wasn't. We are so proud about M-Pesa. But I also feel like because M-Pesa has done so well, it's created a sort of comfort zone. We are like, we're leaders with mobile money and fintech. But okay, what else do we have to show as a country? If we remove M-Pesa from the equation, M-Pesa that's not even actually ours right now. So right now, those top 10 unicorns, how many are Nigerian? So many.
Yeah.
What are we Kenyans? We're the big dogs in East Africa. Where is our unicorn? There's somebody who said there's a high chance if we're going to get a Kenyan unicorn, it's going to be from the Web3 space.
It is, because even of the culture, like as a hub leader, hubs are ideally supposed to make money from startups. But then when we were really pushing, training developers, going around schools, telling them learn Web3, let's certify you to a blockchain developer, I came to the conclusion that we don't really have the startup culture in Kenya, because as startup, you're supposed to go nuts. Most of the people who are on medicine, like mental health medicine in the US, are startup founders. Because a startup is supposed to drive you crazy. But we are very comfortable in Kenya, I can say for sure. And I genuinely believe, because God blessed us. We have good weather, we have no winter, we're very, life is sweet here.
True.
But it makes us sort of lag behind, in my opinion. This is just my personal view. And when I was training developers on how to become, yes, we have builders, yes, we have people who can code very well, provide coding services abroad. In fact, right now we're in a phase where we're noticing that India was where most of people used to go for developing activity. Like if you're hiring a software developer, from Europe, from the West, would basically India. But then India raised their prices, and now people are looking at Africa.
No, it's true.
It's true, yeah.
It's true. I read something actually the other day. I saw that most right now, a lot of Web3 builders are coming from Nigeria.
And as ICP Hub Kenya, we've really been pushing, training enough blockchain developers to get into that space, get jobs there. But then I came to the conclusion that it starts when you talk of startups, because we really want to uplift them. But then when it comes to the work ethic, when it comes to what is needed, for example, in terms of policy, I recently learned that in the UK, if you're a VC, if a startup goes down, the government gives you back 80% of the money you've invested. We don't really have that. And you wonder, why is it that even us as Web3 companies, as Web3 firms, when we're looking for investment, we're always going abroad? So these are questions that have really been bugging me. On top of that, I sit down and I look at the churches. People can build churches from the ground up, yet we don't believe in our startups as much as we should. Where we should be putting, not that I'm saying we should, please take your money, please take your money to church. But at the same time, can we empower the builders that can employ the youth?
Because what you've said is quite important. In terms of employment or unemployment, it's one of the biggest pain points in our country right now. It's one of the reasons why people keep asking, like, hey, Kenya, kwani people don't have work? Mbona maandamano inajaa hivi? And it's because of that. People do not have work. Ndio maana maandamano inajaa. Guys do not have work. Guys are in pain because they can't buy food, they can't pay rent. And it's not because they don't have degrees. It's not because they're not smart. They are smart. They have education. There are no jobs. It breaks my heart ukisikia, kuna mtu anauza mahindi na ako na PhD. We've had those stories so many times. Kuna mtu sijua mkokoteni LD, alikuwa sijui number 1 Kenya, but anavuruta mkokoteni saizi. Why? There are no jobs. There are no opportunities. Not everybody has a rich uncle somewhere to look for you a position somewhere. And that is how life in Kenya is right now. And we are in an industry right now in Web3 where job creation opportunities are there, ripe for the taking. All you have to do is teach yourself. Teach yourself Rust. Mtu wa Rust hawezi lala njaa. Right now it's the other way around. Rust developers are those proper devs right now. How many jobs are out there right now? All companies everywhere, if you go to these job boards, Rust developer, back-end developer, whatever. So right now, this issue of jobs, Web3 can solve a lot of pain points for the youth in this country in terms of job creation, in terms of building. If you want to be your own boss and you want to build your own product on a chain right now, you can build your own product, get funding, grow and become your own boss and build something that's going to fix a problem, a solution. Like I really like Chamadao, by the way. It's one of my favorites. As I was reading through it, it's one of my favorite product things. I think it's going to save a lot of people in this country. So stuff like that. We have the tools within ourselves And I think the reason why you're frustrated, I'm frustrated, is because watu hawajitumi. Because even the people in this space right now, nobody told them about Web3 or how did they get into Web3. It's usually serendipity. It's usually like you Googled, you saw something, you went to a meetup, you learned. And that's also one of the things I really like about Web3, because there's a lot of access to free things, free education, free trainings, free support, hackathons. Please, Wase. Ujaona billboard.
Yeah, if you've not seen my billboards, our billboards.
Hackathon. It's how many? $300,000.
$300,000 in prize pool.
Yes.
And it's a global hackathon. So we have a lot of Indian developers. And as I said, we want to get to that level. We have so many, half of the registrations are Indian. We have a lot of Indonesia, but Kenya, we're coming in a very close ranking, and we've really pushed, we've really marketed. It's not in vain that we want our developers, and we got to a place when we realized that because as a hub, how we get initially, how ideally we should get our money back is through our startups. But as I said, I felt like the culture was not there. So we pivoted into a sort of dev studio where we try and get our developers jobs through the hub ecosystem. So when we put those billboards saying, please come, it's a way of certifying you as a blockchain developer. And that way we can be able to, we've seen our developers not even going through us to get jobs, but even saying, I got certified by ICP, I now know Rust, we've talked about Rust, and now I can offer this service. So guys, participate.
And now this, let me now take it back to regulation. The thing that regulation does for not just Kenya, many countries out there that have walked this path of regulation, makes it easier for all these big companies to come and invest and say, okay, because Kenya is regulated, before we were only going to put maybe $1 million. Now we feel safe enough to put $10-50 million to grow business in this market. People are not understanding that, because the moment regulation comes in, and all these opportunities come in, what will that mean for these guys who don't have jobs, who are starting to be devs? These guys who are in third year, fourth year, who are hoping to get good contracts. It's nice working for a company that's abroad somewhere. A lot of us guys work for companies abroad and work funny hours. But wouldn't it be even nicer to work for a company that's here and work in the hours, sleep the time you're supposed to sleep, and wake up the time you're supposed to wake up? And people don't understand that without regulation, how is that going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. Okay. So let's go to the next question. Right now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is that we've had a number of headlines coming up recently, which came up, I think there's a conflict that came up recently about, I think the point that was saying is that, how do I put this without kujitega? But there's the risk of a monopoly being formed, yeah? And for example, last year, KRA announced that they collected millions, I think it was billions of Kenya shillings in crypto task. It was $77.5 million from one crypto leader in Kenya. And someone raised a concern around February. It was an international, especially after the election in the US. So there was a note that you talked about Trump was being very pro-crypto, and we saw that the crypto firms, the big ones, like is it CMC or is it, I don't remember, Coinbase had funded a lot of pro-crypto candidates.
Yes.
Which raised the question of, can we buy regulation, especially in this world of crypto, where we're getting really huge numbers? When people see here, when I saw people talking about how we're giving out 300K, people are shocked. And us at ICP, the global farm, because we are thinking, oh my God, let's not even mention this money because it's so little. But when you look at
the
market and how much people, like the global industry, how much people put in,
yes,
you can find that there's the potential of our government here in Africa. I personally think we're very rich. As I mentioned, we're very blessed. We have good weather, we have food everywhere, we have opportunity, we have youth, but sometimes we feel like we are lacking in terms of the dollars in the millions. So you find that the question comes in, can regulation be bought? So I saw a lot of headlines coming up saying that there's concern that a monopoly might be formed. There's concern that the government might not be working in our interest after all this work that has been put in. The regulation might not be protecting. There are fees that have been put up that are too high for startups. When we're talking about startups here, so I'd like you to, because I got confused because I was following the news in as much as
it's been pretty positive from January and then up to maybe I'd say last month.
Then the tone changed. Then you see people with Sobling on X. You see people like different groups being formed. With Ruto's side, you have to choose a side. So could you tell us what's happening just for us so that we know and the audience can know and also what they can research on. We want to be very Blockwisely. We try to be very as unbiased as possible.
Yeah.
So we'd like to know what's happening and what should we do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for this question. Well, so I'll also try my best to answer in a very neutral manner. I'd say that this regulation conversation in Kenya began years and years ago. We have to give appreciation to the people, the OGs, the people who came before us, the people who started this work, maybe I think even 10 plus years ago. They've really done a lot because they were talking about regulation and legitimizing our industry at a time when we had a governor at the Central Bank of Kenya who was completely anti-crypto. Like they were pushing for reforms in and setting up our industry at a time when the government did not even want to touch us. Hence the CBK circular. And that CBK circular is why a lot of crypto companies right now up to date, I think I'll clap for some of the lobby groups, guys. I think we were at a meeting and we did Makofi for happy birthday for that CBK circular because it's now 10 years. A whole 2 terms of the CBK circular that basically warns banks from operating and touching people who engage with crypto. We've had situations of traders. We know our friends who are traders. You have a bank account somewhere. The bank discovers you're doing trading. Unapigiwa simu. Come remove your money from our bank.
Not just that. You know, in such an instance, you find there are people who can even. I had a friend who allegedly, please.
Heavy on the
allegedly. We'd find that, because that time I was doing assisting a lot of peer traders, and you'd find that the banks, the employees of the bank, not the banks, the employees of the banks would target crypto traders. When they find out they're doing crypto, they won't tell the upper management, but they'd find a way to actually scam crypto traders. And crypto traders are doing legit business. Buying Bitcoin low, selling it high. That's even if the government won't recognize it, it's a legit business. It's a legit business. But then you find that because there's no way to regulate it and there's no one protecting us, they're targets of scams from people who know that there's no one who'll take care of you. Yeah. So
and they take advantage of that, and it's actually really sad. KBA bankers, please do better. Yeah, but it's good to see even right now there's been a shift because even banks have seen the opportunity and the future in Web3 and blockchain. We have banks like Stanchart that are making huge amounts of money in markets like Dubai and South Africa. And these banks in Kenya, they've seen what their sister banks in other markets have been able to do, those who've been able to embrace crypto and Web3. Right now, CBK did in its 2024 survey, they just came out in June, 31% of Kenyan banks are to work with crypto companies, want to incorporate crypto into their businesses. They're open to it. This for us, this is a huge shift from like almost zero banks wanting to touch and operate with us to 31% of banks in the market that are open to doing business with us. That's a huge positive shift. We now have a new central bank governor who is open. Like all these guys, even the CBK guys, the regulators in the technical working group, they're now learning about the possibilities that blockchain does not just stop with the building of crypto. There's other things people can do with this technology, real world asset tokenization, so many things, mining, the opportunities. The government is seeing all the billions and millions that is being made in Ethiopia thanks to Bitcoin mining. Ethiopia is actually, I think, number 3 or something in the world right now.
They do 3% of the Bitcoin mining.
In the world.
Mm.
And Ethiopian government, they were even having conversations or considerations of, we as Kenya, we make so much electricity. There's so much electricity that's going to waste, of how to approach the Kenyan government to make use of the electricity that's going to waste so that at least to benefit kidogo. Well, kina KPLC Kenjan, I hope you're taking notes. Hizi shida zote za stima tunapitia hapa, and there's ways around it. But I digress. You asked a very important question. And I was trying to give historical context on this journey of regulation. We've had different groups that have tried to spearhead this regulation conversation. Guys really put up a very spirited effort in 2023, and it didn't work out because of many reasons. I think what people also need to understand, anybody can push or promote or suggest a bill. At that time, the bill was being pushed from us ourselves, from the industry. The main difference between last time and this time is right now it's the Ministry of Treasury, the National Treasury, that's pushing this current version of the bill. It's hard, the people in power always have control. In 2023, we were just a group of young, new people in the industry who are pushing for those regulations. Everything was coming from us. The guys in government, they had no interest. We were not grey listed. So it was a really, really hard sell. Those guys don't understand how our industry works. They're also not interested to learn at the time. Now with all these other things that have happened, the government in itself expressed interest, and it's the one that's pushing these regulations. This came from them. It didn't come from us. What guys in the industry have been doing is providing support, because industry ni yetu. We're the ones who do the day-to-day operations of our virtual asset service businesses or VASP. We're the ones who do that. So the government has to consult with us. The people who are doing the lobbying work, they have to consult with us, because we know, for instance, if you need to swap a coin, or if you need to use stable coins or different assets, the differences, we know the nuances, we know the jargons, we know the ZK proofs. So that's why the regulators come to us. I think what's happened right now, there's been a lot of progress. I would say we are almost there. We are almost there. The current version of the bill, there's been some new proposals that maybe have left us a bit concerned, because, as you know, we currently do not have a formal industry association. We had BAK, the Blockchain Association of Kenya, which has been inactive since 2024. Aside from BAK, all the other associations have not been registered with the Registrar of Society due to maybe one reason or another. We have other groups that have been working closely with regulators to push for lobbying efforts. But at the same time, some of these groups have also private interests. They have clients. So I think the issue comes into place when the people who are, like, how would I put it? Let's use a different industry, for example, just as a use case. Pick an industry. Let's use manufacturers. Let's say everybody knows about the Kenyan Association of Manufacturers. When regulations affecting manufacturers come, that affects the industry of manufacturers, the government will engage the Kenya Association of Manufacturers to find out from the stakeholders or the people in the industry themselves how maybe these new taxes or these new laws or stuff affect them, and they will get the information from there. For us right now, because we don't have a formal live active association, it became a bit difficult for the regulators to know who to go to. So they decided to go with the body that has been leading the lobbying efforts. But what they fail to realize that this is not an association, this is a private entity with clients or customers. So it becomes a bit hard to know where the line is. Because if this group has the biggest companies as their customer, is getting a seat in the regulatory body that we spoke about, the now proposed VARAC, and all of us are supposed to go and get licenses from that body. How is it that the same person who's your biggest competitor is going to be there licensing you? So it creates an issue of what we call conflict of interest, where we understand that, yes, it's important, and we applaud regulators for thinking about us and offering us a seat at the table. We just need to, like I said, this is still a draft bill. It's not final. It's not yet the law. A bit more work, not a lot more, a bit, because we are almost there. A bit more work needs to be done into ensuring that when those seats are chosen, those seats speak for everyone. The small players, the mid-sized players, the big players, so that it's fair. You don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to apply for a license and you don't know if the process will be fair. And I think that's what's putting a lot of fear in a lot of people's hearts, because so many companies have invested heavily in a lot of these processes. And all we're asking for is fairness and transparency. And we, not to downgrade or shoot down anybody who's been part of the process, because yes, a lot of work has gone into it, and we acknowledge the work, we applaud it, we salute everyone who's been involved, but we just want a bit more fairness, a bit more transparency. We don't want the big companies, especially if they're foreign companies, to have bigger advantages than these local builders and these local startups here. Right now, even in the Web3 space, a lot of the companies that are making moves are foreign-owned companies, outside companies. And we want a space where local homegrown companies can also survive or thrive. We want a space where African-built companies can get the opportunity. And I'll use an example of Nigeria. The two companies that were able to get licensed, us, Busha being the first, and Quidax. These are all homegrown Nigerian startups. The guys who are building the codes are Nigerians. They like, that's such a win. The biggest people who are benefiting from them, the jobs that are being created by them. Busha employs close to 100 people, majority being Nigerians. We want a Kenyan Busha. We want Kenyan Quidax. We want even the companies that come to apply for licenses. It would be such a huge win for us as a country first, and all these other people, if we support our own and give back to ourselves first. Because even, we have, look at ICP Hub, look at Phrase, look at Chamadao, look at all the products you're building, the startups in ICP alone. If those guys could get the support even to get licensing, si tutaenda mbali. How many more devs would get jobs?
Even local people, community managers, social media managers, lawyers, DevRels, not even just like when I look at myself, I'm not even a dev yet. I'm a founder. How many founders? How many people get? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's, and for me, when I go through the bill, I see that we've put in, which is I applaud that effort. We've focused a lot on finding ways to support the big companies and making it easier for them to invest, but we've not done enough to consider what happens to the local companies. Yeah, if you look at things like capital minimum requirements or just the minimum requirements to operate as a VASP. Right now, you remember all the things I was telling you as you were talking earlier. Anybody who's doing NFTs, even like the devs behind Fries, let's use Fries as a case point. Fries, as with the definition of the current VASP bill, would be considered as an token issuer. And because they are token issuer, they would now be under the category of a VASP, and that would mean that Fries would need to get a license. Before Fries gets a license, one of the minimum requirements to be a VASP is, one, you have to have a physical office in Kenya. That means paying for office space. You have to be registered as a private limited company. You cannot be a VASP as an individual. You have to have a private company. You have to have a CEO. And this CEO must pass something called the fit and proper test. You have to have, these are mandatory halves. I've not even gone through. There's now something called, you have to have insurance. You have to insure all the assets and things that you have to have. What's this other thing? There's some legal requirements you have aside from the minimum capital requirements that you need to have. So that means if you're a builder and you're building something similar to Fries, you'd have to have all these things. That means you need to have a lawyer, a tax team, all these people, a CEO who meets all these things, 35, I don't know what, a master's. Not when we talk about fit and proper test, if you look at that thing, a lot of these things in the requirements in the fit and proper test don't even factor into account that our industry, most guys are like 30 and below. So where are you going to have your masters in finance and your masters in what? Which Kenya universities right now offer degrees in tokenomics and cryptocurrency and digital assets? None. A lot of people in this space are self-taught, or if they're not self-taught, they learn from YouTube or these free things. Right now, fit and proper test only benefits like traditional people who come from a traditional finance or a traditional industry backgrounds, who are most guys who have all these masters and PhDs and things, they're at least 35 and older. So who are these CEOs who are going to be in charge of this VAS? Not people in the space for sure, that's for sure. So some of these requirements don't factor in the reality of the space. They don't factor in the reality of the founders. Can you imagine being the founder of building something like this, but now because of regulations, you have to go and find a CEO if you want to operate in this country. You have to now get funding to... A lot of these companies and products operate remotely. Now you'll have to put aside money from your funding to get a physical office and do all these things. A lot of people don't know that. Wase wana build too, building blindly na hawaji, and these regs are going to pass quite soon.
Yeah,
we're literally at the end. So I think that's something important to know.
Okay, I have a small follow-up question for that.
Yeah.
Now, does the CMA sandbox allow that you don't meet those?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, you don't have to be like your product doesn't even have to be fully ready for you to go to the sandbox. The sandbox is like, think about, see, even you guys, you build apps. See, kwa apps tunakuanga na sandbox testing. So this is the government's version of sandbox testing.
Yeah, but...
So you, of course, you have to have certain things like, you have to have like a company. You have to show like your company registered things. Then like, I think the basics of registration of a company and stuff like that.
So these laws will still apply to those...
The sandbox.
Although the sandbox has a very high rejection rate.
Yeah, they have high rejection rate. But right now, what I would say is even... I'd say like laws are dynamic, things are dynamic. I think we've seen or we've tried to explain like the history where we've gone from a time where it was very tough to operate to now where the government themselves want to tougher because they want to understand how our industry works. I would say like right now with the CMA, I'd say that of all the regulators, personally just from engaging with them, I would say the CMA have been very, very, very pro our industry. I would say they are more open than other regulators. The fact that we have 3 startups in the CMA sandbox, doing things, testing out products in the blockchain space. I think there's one on real estate and guys who are doing tokenization currently in the sandbox. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. I think the people who are there at somebody like James Hillary from the CMA, he's been very, very active. He attends all industry events. He offers a lot of solid advice. There are a lot of people in government right now who understand from the ground what it's like to be a VASP or be in this space. So it's for us to, like we said, what our comfort zone. Because I'll say this, CMA had an open day last month for the sandbox. And James posted in all the community forums. Do you know how many people attended?
How many?
Very few. from our industry and our space, because I was in that space, I could count or like recognize names and stuff. Majority of the people were from other industries. But then you see, it's for us when these forums and these things happen, mnaambia regulation is happening, there's a space to educate, or there's this document that has shared. People don't read, people don't show up to events, they don't educate themselves, alafu wanastuka. What wajitumi? You can't say nobody can spoon feed you.
Okay, but there's
a barrier.
There's a sort of disconnect because, as you said, we're the young people and they're that generation where they us, like me entering into the crypto industries, because I couldn't find job mainstream. Like there's a sort of disconnect. Now you're telling me, after I've tried and worked so hard to establish myself, I have to go back to these CMA people and tell them we share after I went to the employment office and couldn't find a job. I think there's sort of a disconnect between that generation of people. But now that we're getting to a place where we have to regulate, I think it's important for everyone in the industry, whether you're a builder, a trader, a what, you have to pay close attention, because this industry that we've built, from those freelance workers before 2015, over a decade ago, to us who are building startups, kina Chamadao, kina who's who, all that work that we've done, we are getting legal.
I would say this, and what I've seen even work for our company. I think it's very important to view regulators not as enemies, but as partners. I think even before if you're a builder and you have a brilliant idea, even before you write even a single line of code, I think it's important for builders to start thinking beyond the code. Think beyond the code. Because it's true, most builders will end up being founders, but not all of them will end up being successful. If you think about the Vitaliks and the CZs and stuff, they've always thought beyond the code. You can't just think, you think about the marketing, you think about the laws, you think about the what. Because if you want your product to become more than just an idea, you want your product to survive, thrive, and do all those things, you can't be confined to the traditional OG version of Web3. Web3 has become a huge global industry right now. So we have to also adapt. The same way regulators are adapting and are changing and shifting. I feel like right now, a lot of people in the space, mindset-wise, they're still stuck in the old Web3 space. They're still married to the hippie version of Web3 where there was no rules, permissionless, was everything, no rules, decentralization, not what. Reality is, the world has changed. The world is not stuck there. So even us, we need to change. For those people who built, there's a survey I read somewhere, I've forgotten, but companies and builders and all these founders who use this approach where they work closely together with regulators and all these people have a 34% higher chance of getting funded, of succeeding, of growing. And I would like to think that's the end goal for all these builders. Ama people are just, the way there's vibe coding, is there vibe building?
We're vibing.
Just vibes and inshallah.
Yeah.
So that's because right now, in finance, we're in finance and we're in crypto, because crypto is finance. When you're in any place where you touch people's money, whether it's mobile money, digital assets, whatever. Trust is the ultimate product. Before people give you your money, you have to show trust. You're building a product. Where's the white paper? Where's the white paper? How is your KYC? How is your know your customer? How are you protecting your customers? You want us to trust and invest in you, but you don't want us to look closely.
Yeah.
You don't want to, and then you wonder where the CBEXs come from. See, the same CBEX guys are the same guys operating like this. How do you separate the good actors from the bad actors? So regulators are not your enemies. Their job, these guys are in government. They've been put in government by the people in Kenya to protect the people of Kenya from a wide variety of things, including scams and things like that. Right now, the cryptocurrency industry has had a bad rep for the longest. The only thing that's now, the past 5 or so years, that's really helped crypto grow in the global space has been regulation in markets like Singapore, the EU with MiCA and all these things. It's legitimized the industry. It's made us like real players where we can go to conferences across the globe and say, I work in crypto, and somebody won't think that you're a scammer. Yeah. Saying that 5 years ago, telling your parents you work in crypto, what do you tell your parents?
I work in Bitcoin.
No, but it's taken a while for my parents to be okay with my job.
Yeah,
because they think you're scamming people. But in reality, there are a lot of guys who are doing legitimate things. So we need to not view these guys as enemies, but I think having a positive outlook goes a long way. And I get it. It's annoying because a lot of people have built and done so much without regulation, and there's that fear that everything is going to change. But the reality is things have been changing for a while now. Ni watu wako in the Lulu is the Solulu zone.
Yeah. My final question is, when we talk about you talked about these people coming together, and we had the issue, the conflict of interest that was coming in. But a challenge I've been having since I'm in the startup industry phase is that because I speak in conferences, I've been doing this survey for a while, and I ask people, how many of you have a startup on your phone that's Kenyan? It's an app built by a Kenyan, it's run by a Kenyan, and you've used it today. It's not just sitting on your phone almost dying. Like, that Duolingo. After a while it dies.
It becomes sad.
Yeah.
Though I think from my user perspective, I know maybe Duolingo has not been getting the best reps right now. But I just think from a UI user face thing, me thinking about that Duolingo mascot, ikinikasirika, mistaki nikasirika, nitaingia kwa app to make Duo happy. It's more of a psychological thing, and I think it works. If anybody is thinking about increasing their in-app usage, I think it's smart.
It's very funny.
It's funny, it's smart because they understand people.
Yeah. But then you see that's an international company.
Kenyan companies. What's stopping a Kenyan company from being an international company? We've been talking about comfort zone this entire time. What hawajitumi, even when they build? You're building just for your people around you. After this product finishes serving the people around you, guys are not looking beyond the people around them, beyond Kenya. Yeah. Because there's Rwanda, there's Tanzania.
When it's crypto, you have to think global. But the challenge I said the culture issue we have. In other than investing, I always felt like we don't have consumers who want to use Kenyan startups.
No.
They're there, but when I do my survey, I find like 5% of the room. So when I think about the people playing a seat,
do you know why it's like that? Trust,
exactly, or whatever reason it is. But then when I look at these players coming into the room and this body that's a private entity and they're representing the international firms, is it not that Kenyans trust these international firms more? That means trust, you said trust, that means they should have a seat at the table, and they trust this international firm will have better interest for us than
local
firms. What do you think?
I personally, what I think we need to expand our canvassing when it comes to stakeholders. I genuinely and honestly believe not enough stakeholders are being engaged in conversations around regulation. And that's what's creating this ambiguity, because, like you said, a lot of people, even people like you who've been in this space for years, don't know what is happening. And honestly, I don't know if it's by design or by choice, because there are people who have access to these rooms. And it's important that that access is not limited to a few people, that the entire industry, because it affects the entire industry and not just a handful of people, have a say, have input, have the opportunity to influence or say some things. I genuinely think that a lot of people now, because of some of these clauses that were introduced recently, now is when now guys have card and they've stuck and they're like, haya, but these vitu zinapitishwa and we're not involved. And now is when people are starting to read up. My only thing for the industry is guys have to send themselves. Lazima tujitume.
Direct translation.
Direct translation, because like at the end of the day, your business is yours. Sindio? Your business is yours. Nobody is going to come and run or build for you. So you're the person building. You're the one who's going to look for grants and look for what. It's also your responsibility to educate and protect yourself in terms of regulation. No one can do that for you. If you do not have a lawyer, there are a lot of lawyers in this space. Beyond the space, there is ChatGPT, there is Google, there is even Google. Most of these bills and documents are only 40 pages long. I believe that somebody who can take the time to understand a ZK proof, to understand what Rust is, can understand a regulation, because it's only English. And even if you can't understand, like, that's why we have all these community forums. Go to the forum, ask questions. There's so many people, even some of these groups even have regulators within who are ready and there to help. But people are also not. It's, as somebody who's been in these forums and stuff, it's very heartbreaking when you go to events that affect everyone na hakuna watu. Then watu wanakuja kustuka baadaye. So guys should not be shocked and against regulations when they had all the time to participate and they weren't there. But even for the people who are there, it's like we like to say, even when it's in regards to Bitcoin, it's never too late to buy. Hata leo pia ni siku unaweza nunua Bitcoin. Same way, hata leo pia ni siku you can read the bill. It's not been passed. If you have issues with the bill, there's ways, proper avenues and forums for people to raise issues. It's well and good for us to bring up our pain points in our community forums. But we also have to understand we live in a world with rules. We live in a world with checks and balances. If you have an issue with the bill, you can send an email to Parliament explaining why you have an issue with the bill. You can reach out to a lawyer and say, you'd like to submit comments on this bill because this thing will affect me and my business and my company like this. And I believe maybe the government should approach this in a better way. When you're doing submissions to Parliament in regards to regulations, the only advice I can give is when there's something that maybe you don't like, always come from a problem-solving perspective. Don't just say, hii kitu ni mbaya. You should also say, instead of saying maybe having a mandatory stablecoin mandate, maybe tell the government they should explore allowing us to work in parallel or tandem with the stablecoin, stuff like that.
Okay, good. I don't know. I think we'll close. I think we've covered most of the concerns that people like, I believe. But if you have any questions, please share with us on X. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add as we close.
I think the only thing we didn't touch on that I think is very important is, aside from just this other KYC, know your customer things that regulation passes, it also controls how we market our products. And I think all of us have been have faced or been in the face of financial products or things that say, oh, put your money here, 10x returns and what. The other thing that this bill is going to do is just make sure that people who do financial marketing or have financial products, whether it's a token, whether it's a Chama product or anything, you're using responsible language. You're not over-promising results. You're
Not financial advice.
Exaggerations, having those disclaimers and things. Think of every company, whether it's a cigarette company or an alcohol company. So they always have those two disclaimers.
Those photos.
Yeah, think
cigarettes.
about, even if you go to like stock trading apps or platforms, you go to the bottom of the website, there's always that disclaimer at the bottom. You see, this company is listed here, this is not investment, this is not what advice, this is what, do your research. It's very, very important. If you want more people in Web3 using crypto adoption to grow, we want to build trust. This is how we win trust, by having those small things, by making sure if somebody is launching something. Right now, there's a lot of interesting tokens that have launched in the market this week, but we need to put disclaimers. Right now, I think there's a clause that says every token must have a white paper, and the white paper has to have certain things, so that if you're going to a website of a token, you go to the white paper. If these certain things are not here, you can instantly know that maybe this company is not following the rules that are put there, and we'll have less scams, more trust, more wins for everyone.
Okay, guys, you've heard from Chebet, and I'm very grateful for taking your time and honoring my invite for this podcast. My call to action is, other than join our hackathon, become a builder,
yes,
is let's do what needs to be done. We've been told we can't really continue the way we were doing. The government is trying to learn about us, reach out to us as Web3 people. Let's stop hiding in our rooms, meeting at our events, and it's time for us to also play our part, our civic duty, if I could say. Thank you so much. This has been Yvonne Kagondu and Chebet.
It's okay. Shameless plug, guys. If you've not already downloaded a very trusted, regulated app, please go to the App Store or wherever you buy apps, the Google Play Store, download Busha. Only 200 bob and you can buy Bitcoin.
Wow. Yeah,
our minimum fees, we start from 200 bob. Wow. Very accessible, very easy to use. We also have a free crypto course in our community. So if you're new to crypto, you want to learn about how to trade, what crypto is, what you need to do, sign up for us, go to join our community. Free course, you get a certificate, and start your journey. Yeah, and
thank you for that. And shameless plug again, this podcast is proudly sponsored by ICP Hub Kenya, and I'll see you for the next one. Wink.